The Art of Commerce is a podcast featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. Hosted by Anish, a data-obsessed creative director, and Jinx, a growth-obsessed CMO. Listen on for actionable insights for the modern marketer.
Jinx, most marketing teams are great at one thing. They are either they're fast and efficient, or they're creative and innovative, right? But building a high-impact team means mastering both. If you're not balancing speed and innovation, you're just managing, and that's fine too. But I believe in today's day and age, to make the most of what you can, you gotta do both at the same time. And we've done that in the past.
Yep.
Take it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in today's day and age, with the technology, with the competition, you can't have a team that either moves fast or is creative. It's brand and performance all over again, like we talked about, right?
Sometimes you're not doing either.
Or sometimes you're not doing either, right? That's a good point. Can't forget about that. So what we talk about a lot is don't move fast or don't just innovate, but move with a purpose. Build something, build it together. And the role of the CMO, the role of the leader, I mean, this is any organization, and Anish knows better than I'm going to bust out some really bad sports analogies. That's what I do. But you're the coach of the team, and you're looking at your roster and you're building your roster, you're building your team to perform and execute on the field. And that needs to modulate, because sometimes you're on offense, sometimes you're on defense, sometimes you're doing creative, sometimes you're doing media, et cetera, right? But you got to build a team that's flexible and dynamic enough to achieve the objective, to hit the mission. And so what we always talked about was we're building a capability, right? And that starts from the leader, that starts from the coach, and that starts from how they organize the team, right? So in our team, we were, focused on growth. And so we had a playbook that we developed that started it for me that said, we're going to have a strategy, right? We're going to have a strategy team, and their whole job is to survey the landscape, survey the competition, understand what the right investment strategy is for the right type of customer, right? Remember, no bad customers, just bad investments. You need a strategy team to tell you what the right investment is. You have a strategy team. Then you have a media and commerce team. So they're executing on that strategy to develop the media plan, to have the commerce personalization, to develop SEO. So you're making those right investments and you're capitalizing on it. And why media and commerce fit together in our world was because of my experience. Again, we talk about great creative, great media, great commerce experience. That's great advertising. That's great marketing. What I've found in my past running e-commerce for Xfinity, where I didn't have all the media sit beside me, was there was a lot of unresolved tension. Let me put it that way, right?
That's a good way to talk about it.
Where, hey, commerce team, you're not converting my traffic, says the media team. Then the commerce team says, well, you're driving bad traffic. And then you have this unresolvable friction. But if you actually layer them in the same team, put them in the same team, layer is probably the wrong word, but if you put them in the same team under the same leader, you actually have what I'll call productive tension. And that's what you need, because if everyone just says, I agree, and you're great, you're going to get mediocre results. But if just like people challenge each other on the football field in practice or in the soccer field in practice or whatever, if you're challenging each other, if you're sparring with each other and scrimmaging with each other in a productive way where you're supported and you can hash out that tension so that you leave the room as a unified front, that's productive tension. And that is where magic happens. And that's where really good ideas and really good execution can happen, right? And so the reason you structure a media and commerce team together is for that. And that's a macrocosm of some of even the micro things we did. Like, for example, SEO sat next to the paid search team.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of friction there, right? You remember? But you bring them together and it's like, oh man, we don't have to spend that much on brand search because we got it over here. We actually can reinvest that money. And now really cool things can happen, right? You have that tension.
James, that's a great start to the episode. And we are very familiar with the work that you're describing. For our viewers, can you take a few steps back
Sure.
and take us back to 2022, where you joined EchoStar back in Dish Network.
Dish, yeah.
You were the VP of e-commerce at Comcast before that,
Mhm.
and you were tasked with this challenge of understanding what is possible right now and then building a team around your vision. What was going on in your head? How did you approach this?
Yeah, no, it's a great question and it's a good point. I'm jumping to the end. Let's start from the beginning. So, yeah, when I came in the spring of 22, really and it was really to run marketing for Sling. I hadn't taken over Dish yet and all that kind of stuff. So it was just Sling. The team was decimated, right? It was, I think we had a headcount allotment of 50 or 60 folks. There were about 15 people on the team.
Huh.
And because of, we all lived this time. There was a lot of attrition. They call, someone called it the Great Resignation or whatever you want to call it.
This was right after the pandemic.
Right after the pandemic, right? This was 2022. Pandemic was 2020. Vaccine was 21. We're just emerging. But funny story, my daughter was born 2 weeks after the pandemic. Her first flight ever was the flight from Philly to Denver for us to move out here for me to take the job. So, that's how fresh it was, right? And so we came and there was no team. I mean, the people that were there were good, and a lot of them were with me through the journey. But it was a small team, especially based on the lofty goals we had. So the first thing to the mindset is, well, you have to see if the people you have, are they the right fit for what you need in the role, right? And so you have to make that assessment. Then you have to say, what roles do I not have? Because again, right, like I said, there might have been 30, 35 people that we were supposed to hire to get the right fit. But that doesn't mean we just go hire the job recs that might have been open. Like, did we have the right one? And so right away, what I found was there were people doing certain roles that they were great and they should be there, but they actually maybe they were in a life cycle role about retention, but they really wanted to be growth marketers and they should be more in a growth role, right? There were people that were in media, but maybe they actually should be e-commerce, right? Whatever. So we started to think about how we shift those roles. The second thing is we thought about the needs, like I said. The biggest need for me was when I came to Sling. There was no e-commerce function. Full stop. Now, think about it. The number one way, pretty much the only way, because there's no call center, there's no retail, the way to buy Sling is digitally. And you essentially have, an operations guy, authoring guy, leading e-commerce because there's no one there. He admittedly is like, I don't want to do this, but no one in marketing. So we said, we need that function. I talked to my peers and I said, yes, we need that function. People not in marketing knew it. So that's what we hired. Those were some of the first key hires. And that's Anish, that's the team that you joined.
Yes.
One of the first key hires that way. Also SEO. Big gap that we did not have a dedicated focus because SEO isn't just keywords. SEO isn't just, what it used to be back in the day. Well, I'll put some words at the bottom of the page that you Google. No, it's constantly evolving. It's the intersection of technology, what the technology is doing, and creativity and content and all of it. And you need to have a guy that understands that. We were able to find that person. And that was another key hire and allowed us to really innovate. So meaning if you look at some of the richer results, where to watch, Sling is usually in the top because of what we've done on the SEO.
And that wasn't the case when you joined.
Not at all. Not at all. First of all, I'm not sure the rich results were even as prevalent. But second of all, there was no way we were even ranking for the results that we could and should. So amazing job on that front. And then once we had them, we start building out the functions, right? We start building out our digital media practice. We start building out our affiliate practice. We start building out our strategy practice. That's a big thing. When I came, the way we thought about strategy was what's on TV. We'd sit around on a Monday. What's on TV this week? That's not the way you build strategy. You build strategy by understanding the landscape, understanding the competitive set, understanding how you win, how your product wins, and the need it solves, understanding the investments necessary to acquire those customers and retain them. That's strategy. And then you can take that strategy and put it in a calendar, put it in an execution roadmap, put it in a product roadmap, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But building that strategy team was a big aha moment. Because I knew e-commerce, I knew SEO, that's readily available. It's right on the page. But the strategy component was one that wasn't self-evident until you peel back the onion. And that's what the CMO has to do. They have to go in there. They have to make hard choices sometimes, but they have to sit 30,000 feet above sea level and see the landscape and find the gaps, find the blue ocean in the competitive set, but also find the gaps on the team. And that's what we were able to do. So we built that up from 15 to 50, and that's pretty much the team that's there today.
Wow. Thank you for that. Jinx, a lot of times we are flying the plane as we are building it. Right? And that can be, same can be said for marketing team. You are reacting to opportunities which have to be, we are reacting to opportunities which have to be catered to in that moment while also planning for the road ahead. How do you balance that? How do you balance innovation and BAU, daily activities and keep the shop going?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because again, you can't see the forest of the trees like we've talked about unless you know what the tech horizon is. Remember, customer need, business value, tech enablement. The CMO's got to see all of that, right? And the tech enablement is the piece that eludes us the most when we're marketers and we're not necessarily technologists.
Right.
So if you have a big enough team, you can actually segment them, right? This team is execution. This team is today. Think of today execution. This team is forward-thinking strategy, right? On the Sling side, we had a big team, relatively speaking, 50, 60 people. It wasn't huge though, right? We didn't have enough. We didn't have the luxury to do that, especially with all the things we were trying to do.
Yeah.
So the way we did it was rather than segment whole teams, we segmented those functions, right? And that's where the organization of the team comes into play. So the way the team was built essentially was a strategy arm that figures out that opportunity, how to win, what the competitive set is, what the investments are. That media and commerce team that are more focused on the near term. Strategy is a little more longer term. That's a full quarter, full year view. This is a little more, the media and commerce team's a little more straddling the line because they have to think what's a month ahead and they have to know technology because they have to see what's cool and do tests and optimize, but they also have to produce for the now. Then you have an execution team. That's the third team in the stool. That's really, how do we get mail into people's houses? How does the ad ops team get creative to digital? Those guys have an eye to the future, like one eye, because they got to know about dynamic creative and all the other stuff we'll talk about later. But their main focus is the now. And then you have analytics that's summing it all up, creating great models, creating great insights, and feeding it back to strategy and the other teams. And then you've got the cycle. So as you move through that cycle, strategy, media, commerce, execution, analytics, you see that on the far end of that with strategy, you've got a focus on the future, an eye to the present. And as you move through that spectrum, it becomes an eye to the future and then a focus on the present. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. So it sounds like strategy without execution is just fantasy. Right.
Right.
And execution without a strategy is just, flailing your arms around like a fever dream.
Kids to the soccer ball. That's it.
How do you justify the value of these pieces to your senior stakeholders? Because, you're obviously asking for headcount. You're asking for a shift in the way the team operates. How do you justify that? Because your gut tells you, your experience tells you this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right? But for someone who hasn't done it before, how do you make them sort of see the light?
Yeah. So there's really two things. One, one is the business case to get there, right? To get the head count, to say I need these people. Here's why I need these people. And then the second is you got them. How do you continue to justify? Right? And so the first piece is really all about, again, you're convincing the CFO. I mean, you're convincing your president of your business unit, but they're convincing the CFO or they're aligned with the CFO, right? You have to say, by getting this person, by investing in SEO, we can drive down the need for paid, right? That'll help our investment. By driving e-commerce, we can increase conversion, which will reduce our cost of acquisition. For focusing on strategy, we reduce waste, right? For having analytics insight, we start to have horsepower to get better customers and spend smartly, right? These are the way you justify. It's just like justifying a marketing effort. It's ROI. So how do you build the business case with ROI? Great. Now you got them in seat. You convinced everybody. Super. We need SEO. Then you need to continually justify why your team is doing a good job. And it's not whitewashing or sugarcoating or whatever you want to use. It's showing the strategic building blocks of what you're creating. What does that mean? So, for example, we hired this e-commerce team, these SEO guys. They can't do it overnight. You can't build a personalization engine overnight. You can't change your SEO rankings overnight. It takes time. I mean, literally, Google's got to crawl. But what we were able to do is start to build what I call breadcrumbs. And that's what I tell the team all the time, right? A lot of times people say, well, I'm not ready to show it. I don't have enough results. No, that's your enemy. Show the breadcrumbs because it actually works in your favor. People want to come back for more. I got a taste. What's the new taste, right? So we showed breadcrumbs. Hey, we did these things. It's not the end state. Not where we want to be, but we did these SEO efforts. We did these commerce. Look at our improved rankings. Look at our improved conversion, right? Look how we're doing more with less. It's a lean team. Breadcrumbs, breadcrumbs, breadcrumbs. We did that for media. We did that for strategy. And then the proof is in the pudding when you actually start to grow the business. Then there's no denying. But if you wait till that last moment, you're not only is there a chance that people won't see it, your leaders won't understand it, but then your team's not as motivated because they feel like they're building Sagrada Familia or something. It's a decades-long effort. No. Every day we're running the plays. Every day we're running the ball a couple yards, and that leads to a touchdown. You got to show that you're gaining ground every time.
Oh, Jinx, that's so well said. Before working with you on the team, I used to make teasers and trailers for Netflix and other streaming platforms. So I understand the importance of these teasers, but the way you articulated it as breadcrumbs, that makes so much sense. Because you're working on it every day, and you shouldn't just have a review at the end of the quarter when numbers are looking great or bad, and you just can't attribute one way or the other.
Right. No. And look, this is a tip for CMOs, but a tip for anybody, really. The real thing you want to do is give your boss a soundbite. What better thing than to give your boss something at their next SLT meeting or their next board meeting or their next whatever to say, oh, yeah, we did this thing and conversion lifted 20% or whatever it is, right? What better thing to give them than, we restructured SEO, we have technical SEO, and now, Google Portlandia, and we're the number one when ways to watch. Like, what's better than that? So sometimes we forget. Sometimes we want everything to be really precious and, I can't until it's perfect, until it's stat sig, which, by the way, I'm a fan of stat sig, so don't get the wrong idea. But, it's got to be stats. It's got to be buttoned up and peer reviewed and all that. And while that's important, it's equally as important to give the breadcrumbs to show the progress. Because that's how we can give sound bites to our leaders and we can give, impress upon them what we're doing. But that's also how you motivate the team because they see their progress and they can then relay that to their peers as well.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. That's something that's very common in the content creation landscape, but also works incredibly well in the corporate work structures.
100%. 100%. We're always striving for perfection, and we should be. But perfection will elude us. We'll never be perfect. So we should strive for it, but don't anchor to that.
This is The Art of Commerce, featuring conversations on creativity and conversions. If you found value in today's episode, follow the show, leave a review, and stay tuned for more insights for the minds reshaping modern marketing.